just going to get this out the way because this was what fans are obsessed with.
Uh-huh.
Flo is holding a call sheet. So
Uh-huh.
now in their mind, he's calling the defense.
Okay.
How much does Flo interject or add in terms of what's going on the defensive side?
Well, I would say he has all three call sheets on game day. I would say Flo's very involved. If it's in the kicking game, offensively and defensively, there are definitely times that he interjects in the game. There's other games that he's just like, what do we got here? Because he does so many things during the game. It's hard to pinpoint one thing or the other. I'm not sure what people are seeing one way or the other. I think our staff does a good job of putting the game plan together. I think everybody's involved in that. I mean, obviously Flo's involved in that too, and and ultimately it's just my job to make sure that we get the right calls in there on game day. And there's sometimes within timeouts or in between series that we may discuss that as we go. I don't. It's really a non-story, So I don't know what people are looking at. I know Flo definitely has all the call sheets. Flo knows what's going on, special teams, offense, defense. And there are times that we discuss things as we go, whether it's in between series or sometimes even during the series or at a timeouts, for sure. So, which is all good. It's all good discussion, and it's not just, we have multiple discussions with, our entire coaching staff as we go in the game. It's not a one-man show by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does answer my question.
And then.
How much of, I'm not sure if you know, but I think there was a stat that said that Javon and Brandon Brooks like the most for safety in like the past 6 years at least. How much of the game plan was really to blitz those guys that much? And was it something that you maybe saw early on and said, hey, he's got people taking advantage of that?
Yeah, I think, again, when you're dealing with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, like, he's a dynamic player, and you got to come up with a plan to try to keep him in the pocket and contained. And, and obviously you could see there were some times where we had a four-man rush and, we had it covered. He was able to get out and scramble for 10 yards or so. I think, each week it goes into, what you think is going to be best as you go. And then sometimes when, and again, it wasn't all the same look. There were different looks going at it. And conceptually it was kind of similar. We just felt like that's what was best for that week and to keep applying it and, and really credit our players because they executed well. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you can call whatever coverage you want, whatever front you want. Obviously as a coach, you're always trying to put those guys in the best position as possible. But give our players credit. Those guys executed. They played physical. They played for 60 minutes, and they were able to make more plays than Baltimore did.
We also saw Jerome move from inside linebacker to kind of edge a lot. I'm assuming that a lot of that was kind of made in keeping Lamar Jackson's speed in mind. But I guess can you kind of walk me through what went there and kind of what prompted you to make you think that maybe Jerome could excel in that role?
Yeah, again, I think it varies week to week. Jerome's played on the outside. He's played on the inside. He's played in the interior in certain situations for us. I think he's a very multiple player. I think, he works hard. He's extremely intelligent. And, and we ask him to do a lot of things, and that can change from week to week.
When it comes to blitzing with your safeties and corners, what are some of the concerns that you have that go into the decision on whether to do it or not do it? Because obviously there's a risk involved, but there's also a major reward involved.
Yeah, I think there's different types of pressures, blitzes. I think sometimes they get lumped all into one category. Sometimes you play different coverages behind them. Sometimes you have no help behind you. I think the key is you're trying to apply pressure to the quarterback, the offensive line, try to get them out of rhythm. And, when you send multiple guys, and it's not like, you're just sitting there going the same look over and over and over again. It may look similar, but, there's different things that you can do off of it to try to kind of protect yourself. And obviously it comes down to execution. And again, not just the guys in the back end, the guys in the front. So if you're sending more than they have to block, then you need to get there. So you can play a certain way in the back end. If you're not sending that many, then maybe you're playing a different way in the back end. So I think there's a lot of variables to, when you're bringing guys, what coverage you're playing behind it, what your front structure is, what the offense is in, what personnel group they're in. I think there's so many variables to it that, but again, I mean, you credit our players for knowing and understanding the situations, the personnel that they were facing, the formations that they were facing, the adjustments that they made, and they executed well.
Javon didn't do a lot of blitzing in college, right? So what did you see in him to let you know this is an area where you can use him?
Well, I mean, they brought him a little bit in pressure at Oregon, and obviously I think, over the course of practice and, practicing against multiple teams in the spring during training camp, and then, the practice and some of the game reps we've seen, usually when guys have opportunities and they make the most of them, we try to build on that and, try to highlight the things that we're doing well. And then things that we need to work on and improve, we try to get those corrected or change. So, I think it's just kind of a product of, again, Javon knowing and understanding the system better. And I think, utilizing his athletic ability. And, he's a really physical and instinctive kid.
How much better do you feel about this defense as a whole over the past couple of weeks compared to early in the season? Because from our vantage point, it looks like a massive improvement.
Well, I think, I've always felt good about our players and their work ethic. I think, what our record was or how our performance was or what some of my calls were, I think, you appreciate the humility of failure because it drives you to work harder and to get things right. And I think when you see good things that are going on, even though the outcome may not be what you want it to be, that's what, like, mental toughness and competitiveness, like, that's what it's all about. And, doing your best when things aren't best for you. And I think we got a bunch of guys that do that. And so even though things may not, you see some positive things and you just, like, and now we're in a situation where we got to take it 1 week at a time. We got a good opponent this week, and they're going to play hard. They're going to play physical. We got to prepare for all three quarterbacks this week: Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Joe Flacco. They got a good offensive line, and they're really getting the ball to their backs. They're getting some production out of their receivers. I would say, so we got a big challenge in front of us, and we need to continue to improve, continue to work hard, continue to get better, and try to build on some things that we have done well.
Going back to the original question that Omar asked about Brian's influence, what's maybe one or two main things you picked up from him, you've learned from him about defense and scheme and all of that?
That would be hard to pinpoint, Hal, to be honest with you, because I mean, you could go back, 16 years from now. We've had so many conversations about defense, scheme. I would say, more in our past, it probably related more to coverage than anything. And then obviously, since we've been here, I would say it's, front structure, run game. It's all inclusive. It's a good question to try to pinpoint one or two things, because I would say we have, you could, I don't know what time it is right now, but I would say we've probably had an hour's worth of discussion already this morning, and we had discussions yesterday. So, like, it's always evolving. It's always good conversations, scheme, personnel, offense, defense, And I think, we have those as a staff. And I think, everybody, when you come in and you work, and again, you're trying to put something together as a group. And I think everybody that has input and has ideas, like, you kind of look at all of them and then you go, okay, this is a good idea. And there's been many times we're going, all right, we like this idea. And then we go back through it, and we're going, yeah, this is good. And then we find something that we're like, nah, okay, we could be in trouble here. So, there's always a constant, constant dialogue going on. So, to pinpoint, one thing or another, I don't really have an answer for you on that one.
Let me ask you a question about the thought process, because throughout the course of the 3 years, I've always looked at some of these defensive game plans that you guys created and said, hey, that's pretty damn interesting. I could see why they thought about it. With the 3 inside linebackers, with Duke Riley being inserted and Jerome being used as an edge player, how did that come about in the thought process? And then was it specifically designed because of Jackson's athleticism and ability to get to beat you on the edges?
I think a lot of it always goes back to what our players do well, how we can put them in position to succeed, and what are we facing. And so sometimes that will dictate from week to week, okay, well, maybe this guy is good on the edge, or maybe this guy's good inside, but you could face a totally different opponent the next week going, this isn't quite the same, So I think it always comes with the premise of putting the players in position to succeed and highlighting what they can do. And, and I think, too many times, and I think this is a society issue too as well. I think too many times we get caught up in, he can't do this, or he can't do this, you can't do this, or it's like, okay, we can't do anything, So I think, I think you look at what the players do well, and you try to highlight those things, and, and you try to limit the situations that you put them in there going, okay, this might not be a great matchup. So, and then, it doesn't always work out, and sometimes you're you go back and look at it and be like, all right, maybe we should add a different plan here. But there's a lot of thought that goes into the plans from a week to week basis for sure. And again, like I said, obviously they don't all work out, but, and then it comes down to we got to call the game correctly. We got to execute the game correctly. There's a lot of things that go, and then, as a staff, we need to make adjustments correctly. So I think there's a lot of things that go into winning a game. That's why, you guys have been doing this for a long time, so you've probably heard this for a while. It's hard to win a game in this league. And sometimes you're going oh, okay, well, this team's record's this, and this team's record. It's hard to win a game in this league because all those things have to be right. You got to put your players in good position. They have to execute. We got to call the game correctly. We got to adjust the game correctly. And for those things, when they all happen, you give yourself a chance to win, and you don't guarantee that you're going to win. So
I've heard this theory from players over the decade. The last person is Cam Wake, that 3 plays generally dictate the outcome of a game. You just never know when those 3 plays are going to happen. Do you follow that same theory, thought process?
I think you can look back to 3 to 5 plays that are very impactful on the game. I think your process during the game is you take it one play at a time for the duration of the game. So whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, you just move on to the next play. But I do agree that there are definitely some impactful plays that happen in the game, and you look back and be like, that was a big play in a game, or that play turned this, or, and then a lot of times you can get those big plays can get answered. We've all seen, say you go down on offense and, some, receiver or back, they make a terrific play, and then, you kick off and think you got momentum, and then, next thing you know, the returner, he's taking it back. So then what you thought was going to be an impactful play, maybe that just kind of, just nullified it. I think your approach during the game is more so take it one play at a time, and and if it's good, bad, or indifferent, you just move on to the next one because the next play is important too. So and then I think like we've talked about, anytime that you get into situational football, you get into third down, red area, 2 minute, you get a third down in a 2 minute that's in the red area, like, I mean, that's about as big as play as you can get in football. But, I think, there's some plays that might be weighted a little heavier than others, but, again, I think the approach is the same.
Is there a meeting or moment when the evolution of the safety blitz, the corner blitz, really started to become more and more part of your philosophy? How did that evolve?
It was probably, I would say, in OTAs 2 years ago, really.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, that's when, I would say we spent a good amount of time on that, and or maybe it was. Let me go back, because I don't think we had OTAs.
That would be Jones and
That would have been
Jones
yeah.
and Bobby McCain.
It'd been McCain, Rowe, those guys.
But Rowe didn't start.
No, this would have been, I would say it was probably the training camp because we didn't have OTAs. It was probably the training camp when we came in.
The first year you came?
No, this would have been in 20.
Okay.
So 20.
No OTAs.
Yeah, we put a pretty big emphasis on it, and we knew that, that it could be a call for us that we'd use in situations. We kept practicing it, and then I would just say, the more you do some things and the more you see people's answers to it, it kind of evolves a little bit. I mean, it's not a total foreign call at all. The previous place that we were at, Flo's obviously called it in games, and we've had success with it there. But I would say, it's something that's there, and obviously it's just part of our defense. And some weeks, we kind of choose to use it a little bit more than others. But again, I think everything's kind of predicated on what we feel we can do best and what we feel like we're facing. So, but I would say there was a big emphasis on that, from the training camp, like in the 20 season, and and like I said, it's not an innovative concept. It's something that we've definitely run at previous places.
Well, you got to have the skill set, the players have the skill set to hit home, which
it takes some. Yeah, it definitely takes some. It's like anything else, you take your basic coverage and your basic front. You can't just roll that out there and be like, hey, we're good at this. You got to see a lot of different looks to it, the way people attack it. And then again, you have people in multiple spots, so there's always a variable there too. So, again, but I credit our players that they work hard at it. We're working hard to get better at it. In all things that we do. So whether we've had success with it or whether we've struggled with it, we're always constantly working to get better.
I think people are noticing it just because you used it so much the other night and it was so effective that it just kind of hit you right in the face. So you had to be blind not to see it.
They've used it for months.
Well, Peter King had the stat that you ran it like 37 times, I think. Does that sound right?
I'm not exactly sure, because we have different pressures, so I'm not exactly sure what he's kind of referring to as far as 37 times.
Safeties and corners.
And again, depending on looks, that would be in the ballpark, I would say. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more than that, but yeah, that would be in the ballpark. But again, I think everything varies week to week, but it's, to your point, it's not something that we haven't done or haven't shown.